Hello, Tamily. It's time for Ask Tamily episode 147, starring Maybella, also known as May or Mary Alice, but definitely a Tamily legend. And we're super excited to talk to her today. Getting connected. Hello!
Wow, what's up?
You're gonna have to not turn your head sideways the
Sorry,
whole.
it's just until you came in. It's like, it's just weird.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, May. We're really excited to talk to you today.
Absolutely. I'm very excited to talk to you as well. I finally have time. I'm not flying. I'm home. So
Yeah.
And there's no Sprague yet, so.
It's very convenient for Ask Tamily.
Yes, it works out very nicely.
So, of course, we have some questions planned for you, but everybody watching can type questions into the chat, and we will make sure to scroll through and get to them.
Cool.
But let's go ahead and get started with our favorite question, and I'm sure you have a great answer for this one, which is, when and how did you get started with the Tracy Anderson method?
This one is kind of funny. I actually got started. I had to go back and look a little bit into my notes. I got started, believe it or not, back in 2008. And it was when I was
a really
flying.
long time ago.
Yeah. I was like, when did I start flying? I was like 20 years ago. I'm like, damn, I'm old. So I was still working for the regional airlines based out of Newark, New Jersey. That's where I'm originally from, is the East Coast. And I would still carry around a notebook for all of my notes. And I carried what I thought was light at the time, my MacBook, for finishing up college while I was flying. And we would do 6 legs a day. So 6 flights a day, and then we'd get to our overnight and we'd have a short time. And I was always looking for a workout that attracted me more. And so on one of the sits at the airport, I always walk into the Hudson News or anything, and I started looking through the shelves. And I came across what was the Fitness RX magazine. And I had no idea, she was barely 5 feet tall, but I saw this article and I ripped it out of the magazine and I took it with me, and I actually folded it up into my notebook, and I would take this with me on my overnights. And I would do the workout, which completely kicked my butt, but it was fun. And so I looked up further, and I found out that she had the original workout DVD and the dance DVD, and I grabbed them, and I would carry them around and put them in my MacBook that was atrociously heavy. And I would take it to my overnights, and I would do that workout. And then I got hooked. It was just one of those things where I've always loved dancing. I mean, my mom could tell you since I was a little toddler, I would jump on the coffee table, rip my diaper off, and start dancing. So I loved just following and tracking along and just the movement overall. And I also liked her design of just knitting everything close in. Mm-hmm. From there, I went to the Metamorphosis program, then the continuity. Eventually, I did switch over to the streaming. Mm-hmm. And then I even did the studio for a little bit when I was frequenting the Janelle, if you text, I'm going to look at your I'm sorry, Courtney. I started frequenting the studio, and just because I would go so often, it made sense financially. So that is how I got started with just the method there.
So did you complete all of continuity?
No, I ended up with all of the DVDs, but when I saw streaming going on, and then I saw this Instagram family just explode, and then the Tamily hashtag was formed by, I don't remember who it was. I'm not sure if it was Jillian Corey or someone else.
Right.
But the Tamily thing happened. I was like, oh, let's check it out. And then it just flourished from there. So I was like, ooh, I like the streaming. It's live. Let's do this.
So what workout are you doing now?
I am doing the pregnancy project. So I'll show you all. I'm very pregnant. That was actually a workout there. I'm doing the pregnancy project, and I'm actually, this next week, I'll be switching to month 9, my final month of it.
That's amazing.
Yep. And then around that, I add in the arms from either a teen or a fundamental, because I love doing the opening ceremony and the tracking. Mm-hmm. And on Wednesdays, I do what I can of the fundamental forward.
Okay.
Normally, I just look like a turtle rolling around on the ground. I think the 2 things. And don't even get me started on those pretzel moves. That's just special. It's like stomach's in the way.
Well, it's so awesome to hear about your journey, and then also how it's happening during your pregnancy. We're going to have to interview you afterwards too.
Oh yeah. Well, then you might have a little extra something there.
Right.
We'll see.
A new Tam baby?
Yes.
So over the time you've been doing the method, what have been some of the results that you've seen?
I've actually gone through a few sets of results. Let me think. If I started in 2008, I got married in 2011, and in that time, I went from a more athletic body build, mm-hmm. To, and a little bit just not as tightly knit. You could tell that like my biceps were really defined, certain things were done. I transitioned. I have a before and after picture that I haven't actually shared. I noticed with metamorphosis, and I hadn't even gotten to continuity, with that 90-day program, I got really tight. It looked more like, more fluid, if you will, more like a dancer's body, and I enjoyed it. And then in 2012, I broke my ankle doing motocross. So with that break, I ended up with staph infection, and I went through a lot of atrophy. So I had to start from ground zero. And that's when I actually transitioned from doing continuity as I could to streaming. And with that, a lot of things changed just with my diet and overall my body in general. And that's actually started a huge process that I've gone through that a lot of people who are close to me know, just with flying, with diet, as far as health. It's been an ongoing, just the muscular structure has been there, but I've always had that like back and forth struggle. So that's basically the 2 things. And then pregnancy happened, and I was like, let's do this.
So what kind of effects do you feel like you have from the workout during pregnancy?
Okay, that's huge for me. I actually texted Tracy at one point because further on in my pregnancy, you all saw that I was still dancing in the beginning, mm-hmm. and then somebody started bouncing on my bladder, and I couldn't dance anymore. I was like, ah! So I stopped dancing, just doing the arms, and then around 7 months pregnant, my sciatic nerve started firing off, just like, I mean, angry. I felt like I had the worst Charlie horse like right in my butt. And it went all the way down my arm, and it made sleeping really bad. And I asked Tracy, I was like, are there any moves that you would suggest? And she's like, first of all, talk to your doctor. See what you're allowed to do, talk to them, what moves you're allowed to do. And of course, my doctor's like, everything's fine. This is what comes with pregnancy. You know, your hand might go numb. So I transitioned to month 8, and probably within a week, the pain in my sciatic nerve started calming down. I mean, it was to the point where I was doing like a move in this chair. When I went like this, everything fired off. And you guys saw me just in the last post when I was twisting and I was doing everything. There's actually a method to the madness. She's transitions each month to support you as the baby's growing and as your body's changing. I mean, everything's expanding. You get this round ligament firing off. New terms that I'm just like, I had no idea this is what people dealt with. And so it's actually supported me through each stage that I've gone through. So that was actually really reassuring to me as I went through there. And then also, I'm going to call her out. One of the biggest compliments I did get from Tracy is when she said, your muscular structure has maintained. Just with the way you're growing and everything, it's still there, which is huge because I've been working on it since 2008. So her saying that it's maintained through the pregnancy project, I'm not missing out on anything. as much as it felt like it was easier at times, don't get me wrong, there's times when I'm dying during that workout, but it's not at the level that the intermediate streaming is at, or even beginner at times. But you're still just maintaining everything, and your body is still being supported by those muscles around the joints.
Yeah, which is definitely critical. Fantastic.
I'm like, yeah.
So, especially through, you know, maybe not just pregnancy, but even like your career and flying and everything, how do you stay motivated to work out regularly?
Yes, that one's fun. There's many times that I haven't been motivated to work out, whether I was exhausted, crunched on time, I would get to a labor. And for anyone who doesn't know, I would do a day where I would take off from Hawaii after getting up at 7 a.m. their time. I would fly sometimes 11 hours to Japan, and we would get there at night, and everybody would be like, let's go grab food. Let's go grab, you know, beer, food, whatever, because we're all in that plane mode, that work mode. And if you don't go with them, you just do your own thing. So many times you had to make that decision. Am I going to do my own thing, or am I going to go with the crew? Or am I just going to fall asleep? So I had to do something mentally of just making that decision when I land at a destination, unless I'm exhausted, and I had to learn that lesson too. I work out immediately. And I don't care. Normally I would do attain or fundamental and just say there's no choice. I'm just going to do it, and then I'm going to feel so good. I'll figure out where they are. I'll go find them if I want to. And, you know, I'll eat something and drink something, and my mind will be on, my head will be on straight. And I'll also sleep better. And then flying back the other direction from West Coast to East Coast, I would work the red eye. And that one was actually easier for me because I learned firsthand from awesome friend Maria Birmingham, Birmy, we all know her and her sassy dancing. I would hit the red eye, land at about 5:30 a.m. in LA, so no sleep, and then I'd drive to Studio City, and I would do attain followed by cardio. What I attempted to do cardio. It's fun, but I would get exhausted very fast. And the same thing would happen when I was going to Europe as well. I would land in New York, and I would go to a class, or I actually got to the point where I was doing some privates, specifically with Courtney or Lara. And that's just a whole nother level. So that's another story.
Well,
but yeah, the motivation there is sometimes you have to make it happen, and just remember, what do you want? How do you want to feel afterwards? So it's, you just got to make up your mind, and sometimes it sucks, but it feels really good afterwards. And occasionally you are also going to come to the times you need to sleep first, because if you're fatigued, truly fatigued doing the workout, you're not going to get anything out of it.
Yeah.
So,
but that is definitely a tough decision to make. It takes that, like,
it is
years.
And I know you've dealt with it too, with your work and traveling as well. You're like, dude, what do I do here? And,
right.
And there's always, when you go out with work and with crew, they're not like, oh, I'll have, you know, the fish and the vegetables. They're like, let's get the jalapeno poppers, round of drinks. Right. Oh, who wants to share the sundae the size of my head? And you're just like,
yeah. It's very tough, but yes. Awesome for you to be an example. I knew, like, when I asked you for advice when I was traveling, I'm like, my 2-hour flight doesn't mean anything. But
it does, though.
It
does, though, because that's what you deal with in yourself, and that's what's so unique about us. Flying up front is different than flying in the back. Okay, I'm there with one other person, and I have the view from the front. I know what's coming, so I'm in control of the situation. And not to just dive off to, you know, right field. When you're in the back of the aircraft, you have to put your trust in whoever's in control up front. It's stressful within itself. Even going through TSA, walking through the airport, people walking the wrong way. Someone's going to take you out with their roller bag. Someone's looking up and having no idea where they're going. it's just all this stuff. And then, you know, your weights might have been attempted to be taken away, or they just look at you like, what is wrong with you? Why do you have 8 or 9 pounds of weights in your bag? You're like, it's complicated.
Right.
So, and then it's just, it's stressful on your body, but it's the way my entire life is. So 2 hours to you might be comparable to 12 hours to me. So you can't really compare it that much.
No, that makes sense. How would you describe a studio workout compared to your workout at home? And what do you feel like the difference is if it's Tracy or a trainer?
There's tears. There's tears and then there's tears. Okay. My workout at home, I have to show up and I have to work harder. You know, you can choose the level of, do you have the heat and humidity? I don't have the floors. If I did, I'd hit my head on the ceiling. But you have to push yourself when you're doing that. You got to hit the music. You got to really feel it. When you're at the studio, whether you're there with fellow Tamily friends or you're seeing, I mean, I've walked in and there have been actors and actresses in there, and I'm just like, I feel like I know you. But you don't want to stare at them and be awkward. You're like, I'm sorry. But a trainer will come in, and it depends on the trainer as well, of how you know them. Anywhere from, you know, Shanae will come in and you're just, you know, it's almost like a puppy dog. She's like the happiest thing. She comes in, she's like, hey, and you have fun. I mean, I came in the evening, and Sarah Naubacher, if you ever meet her in Tribeca, she comes in after doing something. She's sweaty, hair's down, and she has like a tendril here, and this music comes on, and you're like, you're like, what's that? But the beat and her rhythm is insane, and it's awesome. And then Courtney, if you're able to do a class with Courtney, Lashana, on the East Coast, Lara, and then on the West Coast, obviously Maria Kelly, Olivia, and Shanae. If you're able to do a class with them, just because you recognize them, Kristen is over there too. There's an energy that comes from each of them that's very individual, but you recognize it a little bit from streaming, and it ups you just a bit, you know. And then if you do get a chance to do a private, if you're financially able to and you want to treat yourself and you're able to do a private, I believe my first one was with Courtney. And I've never had my heart racing so hard because I was excited and I was also nervous. And then she brought the bars out and I was like, what the heck? I'm gonna die. But she's so encouraging, and she'll give you the look. We all know the Courtney look. It's just, you get to know them from streaming, and then when you see them in person, it's just, it ups that much more. Now, when Tracy comes in, if you have one of these and you've looked at your workout calorie burn, it will double when Tracy comes in. Just when she walks through the door. I don't care if you're the trainer queuing, if you're J-Lo, I don't care who you are. You could be the most badass person in the world. She comes in and you're like, you're 5 feet tall, I'm 5'10", and I'm like, my heart is racing. I'm just freaking out. So, and she's my friend. So it's just, she gets that look and the whole nother level comes up. And if you can carry that level and trigger it in your mind and keep it, it's huge. But that is definitely the difference. So,
yeah, huge.
Can you tell I'm hyper about it? She was talking about it.
So I do want to ask Courtney's
You tilted
question.
your head, so I tilted. Sorry.
So Courtney asked if we would tell you to explain what a biscuit pinch is.
Hi, Courtney. Okay. That's the word that comes out. I make up my own language when like things get uncomfortable and I don't know how to explain it, like freaking frack, holy freaking frackature, biscuit pinch. Do you remember when Tracy first started doing her lives during the quarantine, and she did a lot of the chair bends where she would, like, sometimes you had to be careful not to overextend the knee. Well, I got excited, and little history, I had ACL ligament release surgery on both of my knees when I was a teenager. So I was over bending and like, go, go, go. And it caused a bit of a flare up in my knee. And I was still doing privates in the quarantine. And I have Courtney, and I have this on video. It's actually posted. And I was trying to explain to her what was going on because I had a chair routine with her and there was some bending. And she said, how are you feeling? And I was like, good, there's just like this. And she's like, what's this? I'm like, it's like a biscuit pinch. And she looks up and she's like, what the? It's a biscuit pinch. And I'm like, I don't know. That is a biscuit pinch. And she's laughing hysterically at me, and I'm just beside myself laughing, but I don't know how to explain it because that's a biscuit pinch. So if you ever have something that feels like you've overworked it, Charlie horse, anything, that's called a biscuit pinch, and I've patented it. So
I think you're like the only person on earth that says that.
I think I am, but I got Courtney to repeat it, so there we go.
Right, now you've got two.
I think she actually asked me later on while I was doing the private, she's like, how's that biscuit pinch going for you? And that was when I had maybe like 5 more reps and I'm dying, and I'm like,
damn it, Courtney! So knowing that you've been through, many different kind of phases with the method, and are very experienced, what would be your advice to someone who is brand new?
Brand new, I would say you need to leave your pride at the door. When you come in, there's going to be a moment where you're going to be excited, but it's going to be overwhelming at the same time. And just jump in. And Courtney's even had to repeat this to me. She's like my angel on one shoulder. Don't get so worked up that you cripple yourself from moving forward. So, for instance, you walk in, the first thing you see is arms, and Tracy's going like this, hitting it and tracking, and it can be very overwhelming. And you also, if you happen to go to a class, it depends on how you're starting. You see this group, you see it in the Tamily online, you see it in the Tamily in the studio. So it's just go with it. Someone's going to reach out to you. If you have a question, you can DM me, question me. I don't care. I look at all of my messages, even the ones that I'm not following yet. And you're going to find somebody that's going to reach back out to you and say, come on, try it out. We'll even give you suggestions on a class to try, or even specific ones to try with certain instructors. But if you can leave your pride at the door and not get bogged down by something that's so different, it's unique. There's nothing like it. Even the knockoffs can't copy what Tracy does. And they can't bring the energy that those trainers bring to the screen. And so just hang on and be open to reaching out. We'll get you. And just enjoy the ride.
That's perfect advice. Can you tell us about what other sports or physical activity that you do? Or maybe that you did before the last few months?
Yes. Oh, I'm on a break right now. But I grew up doing, believe it or not, ballet, jazz, gymnastics, all of those. And then I had teachers repeatedly be like, you're too tall, you're too big, you're built. So 5'10", that was out the door. And so I grew up knowing that I had kind of an edge to me, and I could call it a temper at times. So I was in soccer, and I was even in girls softball. And then I learned that I really loved solo sports. And so when I met my husband, Ed, he's also a pilot. He's retired now, but we met flying, and he introduced me to motocross and surfing. And I've been skiing since I was 2, believe it or not. But he introduced me to motocross and surfing, and the adrenaline kick that I get is so addicting that it feels good. I love it. It's one of those things where, your lungs are burning, you have this high from it, you're just having an awesome time. So when I'm not expecting, and I'll be back out there again once I'm not in quarantine. I'm either riding motocross, I'm surfing. I like my wave runner, the jet ski out on the ocean. I'll be out there, and yes, I tend to go 70 miles per hour across the ocean on it because I'm like full throttle. And I love skiing in the wintertime. So I hate being cold, but I love skiing.
You are like one of the most adventurous family members, I swear. I love seeing that.
Thank you. But I haven't jumped out of a plane yet. I still stand with like, why jump out of a perfectly good airplane? But maybe eventually. I have done cliff diving though. I'm normally the first one that like jumps off the cliff.
I don't know. I feel like it's ironic for a pilot to jump out of a plane.
Well, I am afraid of small heights. Like, you get me up on a ladder and I'm shaking, but everything else I'm fine. So.
Well, we have a couple of questions in the chat that are not necessarily about you, but I know you'll be able to answer
No,
them.
that's fine. Or you will, or somebody will.
Right. One is, how often does Tracy come into the studio? And the other is, do you think modifying is okay and fundamental?
Okay, so I would ask you, okay, first of all, Tracy, when she was, before quarantine, Tracy was in the studio almost every day. The streaming that you get on Wednesdays is what she selected of the best of the best of what she wanted for that day. She was either doing fundamental or attain. I've never seen somebody work so hard as her. As soon as she's done, she's off doing everything that's behind the scenes as well. But she's literally in the studio, one of the studios, every day. Now she's in her own studio, as we've all seen. And I'm sure as it opens back up, she's going to be doing what she needs to do to make her business work. Fundamental, I would ask the question, and I would actually, personally, if you're asking about changing in any of the moves or doing something different, I would reach out to the PRX group, or even DM Courtney or Lashana, someone who's done the breakdown, because that is something that is very specific to them. I've had Tracy tell me to alter moves in the fundamental forward, for instance, for pregnancy. She doesn't want me on my back and no planks, but that's specific to me and to pregnancy. So that's a very individual question, and that I am not the PRX team. So this is not my method, it's Tracy's method.
Right.
So
well, you definitely have some great expertise to share, so we appreciate that.
Thank you. If it hurts, you need to be honest and reach out to one of them, whether it be Courtney Lara or the online studio. They'll tell you who to reach out to. I'm sure there's also, obviously on her website, there's the locker room. So hit that up as well. So.
We have another question in the chat from KS Coffee. She said, what shoes do you wear for DC during pregnancy, but also what shoes, and are they different, that you would wear for DC before?
Do you know how ready I was for this question? I wear these.
Excellent.
I wear the Super Reps. They look like space shoes, alien shoes. They're like the Capezios that Tracy wore before on steroids. I've gone from wearing the Nike Shox from way back when. I actually created my own pair that says Tamily on them. Ah! They're about 5 years old. You want me to go grab those real quick?
I do!
Okay, hold on 1 second.
We have to see Tamily shoes. That is so cool.
They're collector items.
I love it. Okay, while we're waiting for her, you guys can type in any other questions that you have.
Okay.
I knew it would be a good question for May about shoes.
So I still remember Tracy originally was doing the Shox. So when they still had the Shox, I made my own. And you can see that it says Tamily right there with exclamation points. And right here it says Maybella.
Oh my gosh, that is so fun.
I can't get rid of them, but these no longer, they're all worn out and everything. So I could do those for muscular structure, but these right here, these are the Super Rep 2. I can actually dance with them, but realize I dance a little bit differently than other people. I'm very much so toe down to heel, and many times I won't even let my heel touch.
Okay.
That's just the way I dance. I'm like a jumping jelly bean. I've tried for dance, there's the hokus, hokas. So there's the Clifton. The problem with those, sometimes you need to feel them out because they can be clunky. The biggest thing is padding's important, but don't roll your ankle. Okay? So you need the padding and the support, and that's what I like about the Super Rep 2s. When you're doing the muscular structure, it's more so you want something where you can make sure that you're able to extend the foot, and you're able to get up on the balls of your feet. You're able to move. So if you get a shoe that's too stiff, you're not doing yourself any favors, because part of hitting those cross vectors is being able to watch Tracy, and if she's pointing her foot or extending a little bit further, you want to do that. And if you have some clunker, you're going to get irritated. But make sure you do wear shoes. I know some people like the barefoot thing. Yes, Tracy accidentally forgot her shoes and went barefoot, but it was not purposeful. So don't do that. But I like the Super Rep 2s. I've tried a lot of other shoes. It's just, I have them in a few colors. I've even tried the APLs. They don't personally work for me.
Okay.
So when it comes to joint support, because I've felt my hips get on fire from dancing really hard or anything, those are the ones.
So do you alternate your shoes, and do you switch if you wear them for muscular structure? Do you change for dance?
I used to, but now I just use the Super Reps for both of them. That's what I do for now. I do switch out the shoes that I wear per day. So it's just, I switch around, because even within a shoe that Nike makes, it's made in the factory. I've noticed that, for instance, I have the black ones and then I have green ones. They feel slightly different. So cycle them through, or whatever works best for you, feel it out. I mean, if you have the floor, that's awesome. That's huge, whether it's that floor or there's some other floor that a lot of the girls have gotten. That's a long-term kind of luxury. Not kind of. That's a luxury investment. But you will not run through shoes as fast if you have that type of thing, just because it's more giving. So.
Fit Mama Jama has a question. She said, what does your husband think of TAM workouts?
Well, he actually likes it, and he knows that I love it, so that's what makes him like it for me. He's like, I do motocross to work out, so blah. But he's seen how much that it's actually supported my body. My mom and my sisters have both gone through rotator cuff surgery, and they've gone through a lot of surgery, a lot of breakdown in the joints, and he's seen that. And for how hard I am on my body, for him to see what I can do and how much I'm able to keep up in the endurance in those sports. If you can do Tracy's dancing, you can do motocross, believe it or not. And that's one of the hardest sports in the world, soccer and then motocross. If you can do that, the endurance that's there is pretty amazing. And that's where it's impressive to him. And his biggest thing is that I'm happy and healthy, and that I'm showing up for it. And that I'm not, if this makes sense, I'm not obsessive. That it's like, this is my workout. I have my Tamily. Like, my Tamily is some of my closest friends, but it's also like I'm still present in the moment. I'm with my family and everything.
That makes sense. KS Coffee would like to know, what has been your favorite month from the pregnancy project?
You're asking me to use my memory. You realize that I have like total pregnant memory right now. I actually, month 7, I really liked it because there were a few moves that were with the chair. I like the chair, back off the chair. I like the chair. Leave my chair alone. You try to take it from me, we're gonna have a situation. But I love month 7, and I do like month 8. But I like a lot of the chair and the stretching types of moves, even the back kick. Normally I post the ones that I like. So more extension. So month 7 and month 8, Mostly month 8 I left because it helped me with my sciatic pain.
Yeah. That's a big deal.
Oh yeah.
We have another question. Are you going to do the post-pregnancy program, and how long is that program?
Okay, so this is a whole nother section that I haven't actually gotten into yet. I'm planning on doing that, but more importantly, once little baby boy comes out, I'm going to follow what Tracy told me, which is follow what my doctor told me as well. Mm. So that's automatic, at least 6 weeks of just take it easy, and follow the doctor's instructions. Mm-hmm. Then I'm going to actually have a discussion with her. What does she want me to do? There's Pregnancy Project 1, or not pregnancy, Post-Pregnancy Project 1. There's DVD 2. I think that she's actually directed a few people to go to number 2. I'm not sure if you quote me. But what's unique about those is because the diastatic recti that you can get where the abs separate, and it's something that you need to work with because the abs are going to be, the muscles are going to be weaker at that point. Mm-hmm. I mean, they just went through 9 months of allowing a child to take over. So that program is very protective of those muscles and not overextending them and ruining the muscular structure and bringing it back and prepping you for the next part. So I will be updating again. So hang tight. Mm-hmm. If you're ahead of me in pregnancy or you're asking for that, I will update, or also email the PRX team and ask them. Say, you know, what would you suggest? Should I start with the Pregnancy 2 project, Pregnancy 1 project? How long? So we'll see.
Yeah,
I'm praying for a safe pregnancy, safe delivery too. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry.
And it probably is a very unique, you know, decision based upon like what your experience is with. It is. You know.
Well, I mean, for instance, okay, there's a lot of girls that are pregnant right now in Tamily. A lot of them are pregnant ahead of me, some of them behind me, and there's a huge mix of what we're doing, and it shows just how specific it is to each of us. I'm doing Pregnancy Project. A bunch of them are doing that as well. There's others that are doing Fundamental. I forget her name now. I'm having a brain fart. But she's doing freaking Attain. It's like she's doing certain parts of it, but she's doing Attain, and I think she's 26 weeks pregnant. Okay. Others they're doing privates, you know. So that's why it's so specific. There's really not a blanket answer that you can put on us. So.
Is there a like a pregnancy TAM hashtag that people are using?
I think maybe they're just doing Tracy Anderson Pregnancy Project.
Okay.
But then it's just word gets around like wildfire, you know. And even some of the trainers, they're like, "Hey, you live 10 minutes away from this chick, and she's on the Pregnancy Project, or she's doing it. She's right around your due date." And I'm like, "Oh,
so funny."
And then there's like a little secret in the background because you don't want to. Some of them are a little bit more private, and they don't want to put it all out there. So they just DM me and like, "Hey, what's up?" So we need a secret salute or something like.
Right. What challenges have you faced in doing the method?
Challenges. That's a whole nother level. More specific challenges. What specific challenges do you want to ask me about?
You can just pick one or two.
I was like, there's categories of challenges. Some of the challenges have been overcoming my mind of saying, for instance, Tracy doesn't count. She doesn't count the reps. I've heard plenty of people complain about it. They want the equal reps, or how many reps are you going to do of this side, or how long are you going to go with dancing? And it's something that I actually had to overcome even with doing class, because I never count. I would always get used to the instructor counting from other workouts. And it would almost be like my mind would fatigue and say, how many more? How many more? Not just getting into the movement and concentrating on the movement and diving into it. And getting out of my own head and just being able to concentrate on hitting those points of the cross vectors, extending fully, bringing it back in. that was one thing that was for me, because I would want to quit. And people have even seen me. I've been in class before and I would fatigue out because I would go hard and I would be like, I'm exhausted. And it was my mind giving up, not my body. And I learned that even with doing privates, because when I personally did privates, they would do cardio with me first, followed by arms, then the workout. And the moves are going to be hard. If it was easy, then would you really want to do it?
Right.
So, but it was the keep going. Are you done? Are you really done? 5 more, or just feeling the music and bending into it. Another one, getting used to overcoming it, was actually tracking Tracy. That was at the beginning. It's difficult when you're getting into it, of tracking her, because you're thinking logically with, the right side of your brain. Is she going to do 4 on this side before she goes to this? Or is she going to do 8 counts, 4, 8? Is she going to go back and forth, double tap? And as you got into it, you start to get the hang of it. And then you start to notice the little details, like with the hand extending. Is it this way? Is it that way? Which way is she holding the weight? Sorry, you can't see me fully. Which way is she holding the weight? Is she holding the weight open-handed? The angles that she's hitting, and actually hitting them. And then it was actually discouraging at one point because I wasn't using a mirror or looking in my camera. And that's why I record myself, is to actually see what I'm doing. And I thought I was hitting that point. I thought I was extending fully. And then I go back and I'm like, wrong. I wasn't hitting it. And I didn't have a trainer there to come out and say a little bit further, or grab my foot and pull it, or to take the pull and whack underneath your leg and say a little bit higher. I mean, that would be Lara. But it's those things of, you're concentrating, but you're not crippling yourself with it. And it's another thing that overflows into telling a new Tamily, a new person that's coming into the method. It follows you all the way through. I can tell you right now, I don't mean to just pick her out, but Loretta, for instance, she's one of those that people say she's more advanced. She's advanced. But even she'll see it and she'll struggle through and be like, I could hit it a little bit further. So it's one of those things. It's an ongoing overcoming.
Absolutely.
Did I just bend off of your question? I think.
Totally fine. What is something that you've learned from Tracy?
Ooh. Okay, it's really hard to grab that because she's my friend. One of the things that she's taught me is to not be so hard on myself. There's one thing between not sabotaging yourself, because at one point I was the bottle club of the wine. You would be awesome with your diet, and Maria Kelly even saw me do this. If I would work so hard on my diet, but then the wine is flowing or people are talking, you're sitting there and suddenly you've had 600 plus calories of straight sugar. And not only is that with your diet, but it's also with your muscular structure recovery, and just your body being able to recover, rest, all of the above. I would sabotage myself like that, and people have seen that with me. If they watch just my overall feed, but I would come in and I would be hard on myself of being like, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And she's like, you're showing up for yourself. Are you showing up for yourself? Are you being good to yourself? And you need to stop beating yourself up. And part of that is why you might show up. I love how Cassie said this. You might show up for the abs, but you stay for what happens on the inside, and how the method serves you from the inside out. So that's one thing that she's really taught me, just with her existence. There's many things. She doesn't talk a whole lot, I know she does the talks at the end, but it's one of those things. She's slow to speak. She's not going to just BS you. So she was actually really there for me when I was in an accident a while back, and it was very hard for me. It was traumatic, and she even told me, she said, you might have a little PTSD going on. And she really helped me process through that of being nice to myself, because I said, I feel like I should snap back. And I kept getting emotional. And I would be ice water for blood, but my friends would see I would get even slightly just a little bit of relaxed, and I would start tearing up and just doing stuff. And she basically told me, she's like, you need to be kind to yourself. You need to allow yourself to go through this process, to struggle through it. That's part of, bringing it back down to the small things. That's part of the reason why each week is 7 days. You're going to be on your face at times. I have belly flopped on many of the moves. Literally belly flopped. It hurt. And then by day 7, was I perfect? Maybe not, but I was able to perform the move. And it's that process of allowing yourself to fall on your face, get back up, fall on your face, work, and be willing to ask the question of how to work through it.
Absolutely. That's a very important lesson.
It overflows.
We have another question in the chat from Carrie. She said, is there any effect on skin tissue, tension of the skin, or glow that one can recognize from regular workouts?
Yes. Sorry. Yes.
That's it.
That's part of the method, and that's one of my first before and afters, and I'll post it to my story after this if you want me to. This is back. Yes, this is back when I was 26, 27, and you'll see in the 90 days, I didn't really lose that much weight, but you saw the skin tightening up. And it's one of those things where I didn't even do the heat and humidity yet. It was just that method. And if you're consistent and follow through with this, part of what brings the skin back in is you tightening the muscles around the joints, but also how you're holding yourself because of the workout. For instance, if you slouch down, it doesn't feel good. If you slouch down, you're going to have, the stomach slouching down. So it's also how you hold yourself, doing the full extension, really showing up. If you start flopping around, the arms are not there, you're less likely to see the results. Just remember that when you are doing these moves, you could almost picture yourself moving through water. The resistance that water will give you when you're doing breaststroke, or if you just move your hand through the water. If you keep that movement and that tension as you're going through, really performing the moves, it does. You're going to get the tightness, you're going to get the glow. It's overall healthier because you're going to age better, healthier. Not as much of a fluctuation, if you will. Now, if you bring in the heat and humidity, that's a whole nother level. And she's even said that, the heat and humidity, the G-floors, it's just something that she's perfected there. But work with what you have. Don't go into that mindset of all or nothing, or I get
right.
And then if you don't have the water visual, put your hand out the window when you're going fast. The wind that pushes your hand back when you push forward, that's what you want to feel. You could actually do arms without weights and feel that movement all the way through.
Right.
You can feel it right here, where we all say there's the bags. If you're doing that pressure, you can feel that tighten up all the way around, wrapping around.
Yeah, it really is about being aware of every fiber in your body.
And it's exhausting.
Totally. Just even talking about it.
I know.
What is one move that you used to hate that you now love?
The side ones where you kick your leg out it's almost a hydrant, but the leg is straight, and it's just a simple one where it's on the ground and you bring it up.
Okay.
My hips hate it.
Yeah.
I would do one, and I would be like, I can't lift it any longer.
One rep.
I would literally be like, I would go to lift it and be like, So, I've gotten more to the point where I was trying to lift more just from the hip joint instead of feeling it wrap around. You know how she's always like wrapping around the whole thing. And as I built that connection, I actually learned to really like it. And it's a movement that feels more, it always ends up feeling more like a dance, like an art to me. So that's the one I thought of. I really thought about that one hard for you.
We have another question in the chat from Fit Mama Jama. This is fun. She wants to know, what's your favorite place to fly to?
My favorite place to fly? Okay, so my favorite place, I've only gone there once, is Palau. Okay. That is in the Solomon Islands, just east of Australia. Okay. And that's where they have the jellyfish pond. I flew in there, and that's also, there's a lot of history there. From the wars and everything, where there's planes that are still under the water. You can see the caves with the pillboxes. There's a lot of history, but that one was cool to physically fly into. I love flying into Honolulu. You see the Diamond Head, you see just the blue water. It brings you in, and just the whole feeling of it. And also just because I flew probably 10 hours to get there, and I can't wait to get on the ground. So, and I know that I have about 24 hours to just like nap, work out, soak it in, and just kind of check out. So, and then landing at home. So,
yeah. Maggie has a question. She says, what can we do as travelers to support pilots and flight attendants now that we will be returning to travel?
Take a deep breath. There's going to be a lot of excitement, some stress, some questions. A lot of the airlines, because the CDC is coming through, there's so much transition happening between the vaccinations. They just did a nationwide, announcement of certain times where you no longer have to wear the mask if you've been vaccinated. Other times when the airlines haven't specifically changed that though. Mm-hmm. So you just kind of have to calm down, take a deep breath, and realize that they're there for your safety. First and foremost, Valentina's on, so she knows, and she's going to echo anything I say. But you're going to have other passengers in there that might be really stressed out, angry, unruly, or they might have an actual situation or problem. Mm-hmm. So just don't let that stress feed off onto you. Go into it ready, have your mask ready to go, or have it on, follow the rules. But I know it's going to be stressful at times. It's just how it goes when you walk through those sliding doors, when you go through TSA. They want to know, what's vibrating in your bag. And you're like, it's my toothbrush. I promise. But it's one of those things. There's going to be stress, and know that they're stressed too. They're there for you. There's a whole story going on behind the scenes of us making sure that you're taken care of. We want you there. We want you safe. We want you comfortable. And there's some times where just crap happens and things aren't going. I mean, we've been notified before. They're like, we don't have water yet. And we're sitting there and we're like, we're not leaving until you do this service. You have to do this service. And meanwhile, you're sitting there and you're like, I have a connection flight to get to. Like, what the? and we're watching. There's so much going on in the background. We know many times what your connection flights are, especially if it's with our airline. We're watching the weather. We're watching the entire situation. It's you might see the small picture. We're seeing the big picture. And especially, I know I'm up front, and so I'm able to close the door. Not saying that in a mean way, but I'm able to close the door and say, I have to do my job. You guys are back there. As long as I'm taking care of myself, I know I'm taking care of you. So we're good to go. You'll have the flight attendants back there in the in-flight group, and they're right there with you. They have to ask us what's coming up. If there's, turbulence that's coming, we have to inform them. It's a chain of communication. So realize that they're there face to face with you to take care of you, but to be there mainly for your safety. So that's a long way of saying take a deep breath.
Right. No, that's very important though, especially as we get back into things and people do get stressed, to know that absolutely safety is the number one priority.
Exactly. Open your Gasper fan.
Well, we are coming up on the end of this 60 minutes. I can't even believe it.
Sorry, I got chatty.
That's the whole point. We wanted to hear you chatting. Let me see what the last question I'm going to ask you would be. What is most important to you to balance in your life?
Most important to balance in my life is basically to find that happy medium of don't be so extreme. So it's not an all or nothing. If you say, and I'm saying if I say, if I can't give 100%, I'm not giving anything. It's the biggest thing of me trying to find that happy medium of balance. So it's knowing when to call it. Knowing when to say that's enough. Whether it be not letting someone who's toxic in my life to remain there. It's not me saying that I don't like you or you make me angry. It's saying this is not healthy for me. Mm-hmm. So and sometimes that's even the relationship that I have with myself. And that's something that I had to learn. So of being able to say, going full hard on trying to, for instance, lose weight at one point, becoming obsessive with the scale, for instance. I was at a point at one point in my life where I would weigh myself multiple times throughout the day because I wanted to know, what was going on. And I thought I could mind bullet it to go down. And it didn't need to go down. I was actually right where I needed to be. But it was just this obsessive compulsive. And I would put my physical working out before everything. And it wasn't in a healthy way. Mm-hmm. There is a difference between showing up for yourself and serving yourself to take care of you. And then there's one of just saying because you're obsessed with looking a certain way that you feel like you're supposed to. Mm-hmm. So I had to actually ask myself that question of what do I really feel? I'm not going to give you the right answer that I think you want to hear. I need to answer myself with what it actually is. And then I have to ask the question, is that healthy or not? Mm-hmm. So, and a lot of that had to do with balance. So, yeah.
Definitely all ties in to the Tracy Anderson method.
It does. It really does. It's one of those things where I've had a few chats where people had to say, you need to find a healthier balance. Tracy sent me home immediately after a class once saying, you need to go to sleep. There's times that I've pushed too hard where that's not balanced. Mm-hmm. Fatigue is a real thing. And I know that I can operate under fatigue, but it's not always good. Mm-hmm. So there's a point at which you need to call it. You need to stop. You need to know when to say it. And Jody Lodge, I know she knows that too, because she has a personality like me with a sprained ankle. She would do a marathon run. So balance. It's like a type A thing that we all have to really work on.
It is. Like, we're all so different in the Tamily, but we all are type A.
Yes, we are. And it's a thing.
Well, it has been super amazing talking to you. And I love that we interviewed our first openly pregnant Ask Tamily star. And we're going to have to do a little reunion interview once the baby boy is here and he can
once
join.
I'm not sitting in a straddle all the time. I was like, I didn't eat.
Yes, that's a very great accomplishment. It's been 61 minutes.
I've been taking little sips.
Well, is there anything else you would like to say to the Tamily while you have this audience?
Yeah, if you guys have any questions or anything that you didn't want to put out there in public, but do want to ask, don't hold back. You can DM me anytime. I'm not going to be like, yo, look at this person ask me. But reach out, and if I don't have an answer or it's not my question to answer, I'll be honest. I'll point you in the right direction if I'm able to. But that's one of the first steps, is just be willing. And I don't care if you're asking about weights to carry for travel, or, how much is the heavy ankle weight, or what brand do you have of the mat, or whatnot. It doesn't matter. There is no wrong question. And just bring it. And if you didn't get to ask it here, you can ask me later. I don't care. Do it.
Aw. Well, thank you so much. Thank you for being interview 147. It's been fantastic.
Yes. I'm like, I did it.
Yeah. Major achievement.
I know. It took a bit, but I'm happy that I was really able to get on here and just relax and chat with you. It's been a while.
Absolutely. So, thank you. We will definitely schedule you again after baby boy's here, and keep us in the loop through your posts.
Indeed, I will. I'll do my best. Oh yeah, I'll go do that before and after. No.
Yes.
No, and the pictures are old, so it's not like this perfect picture. So
no, that's fine. We're interested.
They're side by side, and then they're gonna have another round of before and after.
Absolutely. We're looking forward to it.
Sweet. All right. Love you all.
Thank you. Thanks for watching, Tamily.